And welcome to Front Row the Podcast. We're very excited to have you here. But before we get going, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review if you got value from this week's episode. We can't wait to share with you all the industry peers, all the industry experts, all around professional speaking. And we are super excited to welcome you to this week's episodes. Get your notepad ready, get your action steps lined up, and let's tune in to this week's episode. Welcome back to another winner series, and I'm here with the one and only Bonita. And Bonita is quite an exceptional woman, and we're going to unravel that as we go forwards throughout this podcast interview. She's kindly taken time out from a busy schedule. She's a little bit unwell, so let's be nice to her and send her loads of love in the comments. And we're going to unpack Bonita Norris or Bonita Baxter, or maybe both, probably both, and just find out a little bit more about you as a speaker, of course, but also your journey to becoming a award-winning speaker, and of course just who is behind the speaker. So we're going to unravel that. For those of you listening for the first time, I'm Elliot Kay, and I'm the CEO of the Speaker Awards and Speaker Summit, and I get to interview all these incredible people. You're listening to the Winner Series. We are interviewing all past winners of the Speaker Awards. Over the last couple of years we focused in on, and I'm very excited to hear Bonita. I've seen Bonita for 2 years. We always say hello, nice hug. Never really get to sit down and talk to you very much. I always have a very nice handshake from your husband, but that's all I seem to get. So I'm looking forward to our conversation, Bonita. First things first, happy 2026. We're recording this. You're the first recording of the year. So I'm excited about that. Has your year started well already? We're almost a week in.
Well, happy 2026 to you too, Elliot. And can I say it's such an honour to be on this podcast. I'm very excited. And I couldn't have imagined a better way to start my year.
Except you're a little bit ill. Yeah. So...
I'm a little bit nasally, if you can hear that, but I think you're a little bit ill too. So we're gonna muddle through.
We're gonna nasal together. Now that's something you didn't expect to say on a podcast. So, so tell us a little bit about your journey to the awards. We'll get to your speaking journey and stuff, but how did it come onto your radar? Where did you hear about it? Tell us a little bit about that side of things.
I just was trying to find out if there were any speaking awards at all. I had no idea that there were speaking awards around, and as a speaker I was just wondering, I was thinking, I wonder if there is any kind of recognition for in our industry, because as a speaker I often go to award ceremonies, and I give the after dinner speech and I hand out awards, and I do this countless times a year. So I just think one day I thought, I wonder if there's awards for speakers. And really was not expecting anything to come up. But of course, the first thing that comes up is the Speaker Awards. And this whole world existed that I had no idea about. And from there, I got immediately very excited. And that was two years ago now. So I think 2024, I first applied.
Right. But by this point, you're already fairly established, right? It says you're not a beginner. You're out there, you're speaking regularly, and then you find the Speaker Awards. And then you start, take us through the process, because obviously there's an application process, there's a submission process. Or were you like, oh my God, roll eyes, well, do I need to do this? Or are you like, let's do this? Or you're a bit like skeptical? Be honest.
I wasn't skeptical at all. I think I was intimidated.
Oh.
The reason that I was looking up whether there were any awards for speakers was actually mainly because I wanted to find out about other speakers and do some research on the competition, if you like, and just find out who was out there. And I came across your website, and I just looked at the speakers who had won previously and looked them up, and I just thought, there's no way I will ever win against these people. But at the same time, I always fancy a challenge. And for me, there didn't, you didn't know who I was. I wasn't well known in the speaker world. I was well known by the bureaus. I had great relationships with my clients, but as far as being kind of in that world, I wasn't really. So I didn't feel like I had anything to lose reputationally or anything. So I decided I was going to sign up, but I genuinely had zero belief that I would even be shortlisted. So that was a shock as well. And so it was just the whole process. I remember being really really pleased just to have submitted my application, because I felt like it was such a good thing to do to make me really think in a way that I hadn't thought before. And what do I stand for? What's my positioning? And so that whole thing in itself, I thought, well, you know, the fact that I've just done the application is a win. And so, yeah, to get shortlisted, then I was like, oh my God, we're going to the fancy awards show and I don't have to stand up and give a speech at it. I can't wait. The first event I'll ever go to where I'm not the person going on stage. So, yeah, that was also a real treat as a speaker.
So let me, I always find this part fascinating when I talk to the winners about this process, because you're the youngest female to summit Everest, right? So you've pretty much faced death in the face, yet you found this intimidating. That always, like, I find that quite interesting. I mean, obviously they're very different things. Is it because you looked at the winners and were like, oh, and then you checked them out? Is that kind of what you went through, which you found intimidating? Who are some, it's okay to name drop, who are some, can you remember some of the ones you looked at that you were like, ooh?
Yeah, Jazz Zampapa, yeah, I looked her up and I think she had won already a few times in a row by that point, and I just thought, well, if that's the caliber, there's no hope. So yeah, I think is what I love about the Speaker Awards is it does give you a sense of where you are. Whether you're shortlisted or then you become a runner-up, or if you win, it gives you a sense of, okay, I work in isolation all the time, but now I've got some sense of where I am in this community and where I need to get to next. And I had none of that when I signed up. So I just didn't know whether my application was any good. You know, it was a great process for me to go through, but I was intimidated because it was just a complete unknown, and I hadn't really got any idea who I was as a speaker, what I stood for, and I didn't have a huge amount of confidence in myself as a speaker at that time either. So yeah, it was all just very new. And people would often say about the whole Everest and, you know, doing dangerous things. Yeah. I think social things are far more intimidating than any mountain you'll climb.
Is that right? Wow. Are you an introvert?
I probably. I'm not sure. I don't like labels. Right. But definitely don't. Definitely feel myself very much comfortable in nature. Okay. And not so comfortable at parties where I don't know anyone's name.
Fair enough. No, that's interesting to understand that as well, because I think also speaking has this kind of reputation that everybody's super confident and everybody just wants to jump on stage and everybody's got loads of energy, and that's not true. Yeah. There's such a range of people that enter speaking for different reasons, and of course introverts are, I know you're not labeling yourself, but you know, Lavelda's an introvert. She's a and it takes her days to get ready and days to recover. So
you'd never know.
You wouldn't know that, right? But she is. Lavelda's the co-founder, for those of you who don't know. I'm talking about for those who never came across us. So I think it's very fascinating to hear people's like, well, I'd rather face Everest than a party full of strangers, right? So that's really fascinating stuff. So you go through the process, I remember your application because you're one of the applications when I looked back. I'll only look back at things once the awards is done. I don't actually look at any videos, so I can stay completely out of the process. And I remember looking at your application because I was like, why did Bonita win? I wanted to kind of remember, and I started to share that with you a bit. And can I share your application? Can I share your... And it was very clear. It was very... Well, for someone that says they weren't confident, you came across very confident and absolute clarity in who you were and your positioning. And then in 2024, you won. Now, do you want to tell us about that moment? Because you were like, hey, I don't have to give a speech. I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to show up. Take us through that. Take us through that kind of...
Well, it was in the Docklands or something, wasn't it, in 2024?
Yeah.
Me and my husband got the bus from northwest London in our glad rags. Oh, really? You know, him in his bow tie and me in my dress. And it was raining. And I just remember almost feeling a little bit sorry that I'd forced him to come on this...
No.
Bus journey across London. It was raining and all of that stuff, and I just felt really bad. And I thought, oh my God, I really hope that it's, you know, I win at least, and then he'll be happy that I tracked him here. And anyway, as soon as we walked in, we literally didn't know a single person. Wow. And I remember you coming up very kindly and introducing yourself. And you said to me, and Elliot, this is a little tip, you immediately came up to me and you said, Bonita. And I was like, oh, yes, hi, nice to meet you. Of course I know who you are. And my husband turned to me at that point and he said, you've won an award, because he wouldn't know your name unless you've won.
Oh, no. I didn't know if I knew you won an award at that point, to be honest.
Oh.
I'm not just saying that. Because I only reviewed your application post you winning. It's not like I looked at it. I looked like, why did she win? There must have been something that stuck in my mind. I tell you why I know your name, because I think you emailed in to have your image changed. And and that's how I know your name. Because you were like, can I use this image, please? And that stuck in my head. So that's how I knew that you were Bonita. There you go. But, that's interesting assumption by your husband. So keep going.
Yeah. Well, and then until this very moment, thought that he was right. Thought that you'd sort of let this slip up by knowing who I was. But actually, it was because I was faffing around with which photo I wanted, wasn't it? That's so true. But obviously we then sat down at the table, and the table that I sat with, I'm still very good friends with to this day. People like Felicity Ashley and Emma Henderson and Kay Caution, people like that, in the world that we're in. And so thank you for that. That was wonderful. Winning the award was when my name was announced, I remember just being like, what? This doesn't happen. How have I won I've never won an award in my life. So it's just disbelief, complete disbelief. And and I remember sort of having heart palpitations as I walked on stage. You can see in the video that I'm sort of clutching my chest because I'm so shocked. And I've never had that feeling in my life before, being like this joyous shock of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've done this. So it was a moment for me of, as I mentioned already, a very, very low confidence before going into those awards. And then that for me was like a watershed moment of just having my confidence built and never look back again. So a great night in so many ways. Wow.
You see, because for me, sitting watching, because that's the one time I get to sit and watch. The awards, Lavelda and Simone take over. Because I do the day, right? And I get to sit back and watch and observe. And what's fascinating is I can remember lots of people's expressions. And often I'm like, they look quite numb. And I'm like, are they not happy they won? But now since doing these interviews and with you just realize how much is going on beneath the surface, that you're processing so much disbelief, that, it doesn't quite travel to the face quite yet. And I remember you walking up both times actually, and just again this kind of look of shock on your face, like, me, really? And I think that's probably what I would be like, because I'd like you, I've never really won anything. I reckon if I enter the awards, I probably wouldn't win anything. The level is so high these days. I said this to someone the other day. They're like, would you enter it? I'm like, I don't think I would get anywhere near winning. But hey, I don't know. I can't, because I'm the founder. That's the good news. I'm not allowed, because can you imagine if I won? The controversy around that would be awful.
I believe you would have a very good chance.
Thank you.
Seeing you on stage.
Thank you so much. So you do year one, and tell us what changed after, because confidence goes up, but actually for you, lots changed, like tangibly. It wasn't just the confidence, which we can and can't measure, but things shifted in your whole speaking sphere. Do you want to take us a little bit through that?
Yeah, definitely. So I had always treated my speaking business not as a business, but something that bureaus like Champions or Speakers Corner or JLA would phone me up and say, would you like to do this job? And I'd be like, why do they want me to do it? I'm rubbish at this. I hate going on stage. I can't. And every talk I did, I'd always say to myself, this is the last one. I can't do this anymore. It
Bonita.
kills me. The nerves, the fear, the days beforehand of not being able to eat because I'm so anxious. That was me for many years. And I think that came from a deep-seated belief that someone like me shouldn't be on stage. How am I, and I think a lot of maybe a lot of speakers have that. You have these incredible personal experiences, for me, in the mountains, where I learned so many lessons. But, I think I always thought, well, what if they don't resonate with other people? And why should they resonate with other people? But for whatever reason, I kept getting phone calls to go on stage. And so when I won the award, it was just that first time of going, okay, someone has, in a very objective way, looked at me as a speaker and compared me to other speakers and said that I'm not rubbish, hopefully. Like,
you're clearly
so
not, though, right?
And then, so from there, that then made me push my speaking work, not hide in my, under my bed sheets, and the phone would be ringing. I'd be like, oh no, not another one. Oh, no. But actually go out there and go, I can make something of this. And that thought had never occurred to me before. So I decided I was going to start a website, which I didn't actually have.
You didn't? This is also new to me. Gosh, keep going.
Yeah, not until that. So the only way that you really could contact me was via an agency. So I started doing that, and just being a lot more, the website and just the marketing and things like that. And as a result of that confidence, and I know you say it's intangible, but it really was, that was like, right, I'm going to actually go and push this now. And from there, managed to basically double the amount of talks I was doing in a year, and more than double revenue in a year. So, it just goes to show what a bit of confidence, a bit of a boost like that can do. And of course, with everything, I was I won Best Storyteller at the Speaker Awards, and that was a real stamp of approval for potential clients as well. So I'm certain that I got, I don't know how many gigs from it, but definitely I think in the round, when someone's looking at who to book as a speaker, somebody that's got that stamp of approval, that makes a difference. So
wow,
it was a massive year after that.
That's amazing. Sorry. So just as I hear you speak, what for like some of the people who are thinking of applying or might not be, because in people's eyes you'll still be seen as fairly established when you entered, right? Although you were like via the bureaus, which most people really, you kind of did it the wrong way around. Most people get established, get signed by bureaus. It sounds like you went straight for the bureaus, got busy. What do you say to those who don't feel they're quite established enough yet, or they're not quite there yet? Like, if someone was listening now, what would you say to them about going for the awards, but generally just perseverance?
Yeah, I would say the awards are a really great place to start and consistently apply for every single year, because you are really forced to think very clearly about what you represent and who you are and why you should be on stage. And you might, like, me or whoever these people that win, you might get that surprise that you get shortlisted, or you become runner-up, or you win. So I just don't think there's any harm in doing it. It's such a good process to go through. So I'd say definitely start there. And then I also say, when I do get asked a lot for advice from speakers, and I always say that I'm the worst person to ask for the aforementioned reasons of hiding under my pillows, trying to not, telling myself I'm never going to do this again every time I did a speech for many years. Yeah. I have a very sort of odd way of coming into the speaking industry, which was when I climbed Everest and other mountains back in my early 20s, I was invited a lot to speak at schools and WIs for free.
Okay.
Now, there was no real pressure in that. And then I did start to charge schools, and I probably have spoken in 100 schools over those first couple of years of speaking, mostly for just either free or a very small sort of nominal amount of money, because I had another job at the time. So, but I was still speaking a lot, and that took 5 years, I think, before I signed up to a single bureau. But by the time I'd signed up to a bureau, I'd done hundreds and hundreds of talks. Right. So I had a real understanding of my speech. I knew all of the beats. I knew it intimately. I knew the messages very clearly, because I delivered it hundreds of times by the time I went to a bureau. And I think perhaps that came across to them. And this was back in 2015.
Okay.
So we're talking a while ago. I think it's a lot harder now to get on bureau's books than it was. I don't actually know, but this is just anecdotally what I hear from people that I encourage to go and speak to these bureaus. They say actually it's really hard. I didn't have that experience. I think it was potentially a bit easier back then, and from there, I then started to get work pretty quickly and consistently from them. So that was my way into it, and it took years. And people don't want to hear that it might take them 5 years before they're ready to go to a speaking bureau. And I agree, I wouldn't want to go through that, but that's just the way it happened. And I wouldn't know how to do it any other way, really. I obviously think that if you do win an award or something like that, then obviously you're going to get people's attention a lot quicker. But I'm pretty much the worst person to ask advice for, and unless you want to go and do hundreds of school talks. That's the only advice that I can give.
I think, but it's all valid. I think a reframe, you being the worst, is probably makes you the best, right? Because you're coming from a place of hard work and doing free gigs and then getting paid little to now where you are. I think that positions you perfectly to give great advice, because you didn't do a TV show and shot into stardom, right? You've earned your stripes, right? Literally by what you achieved on the mountains and the journey you've taken now to be one of the most booked speakers and be up there as a highly paid professional speaker. So I think there's a part of that makes you the best to give advice, not the number one, but one of the best people to talk to, because you've done the hours.
I think it goes to show that there is no shortcut to hard work. You do have to put in those, and it's really important as a speaker that we have thousands of hours on stage, because things go wrong all the time, and you have to have that bank of knowledge of your own speech and how to adapt it. But I also see speakers now who 3 or 4 years ago were not even speaking, and now they've completely leapfrogged over me and are doing incredible work. So what I am saying is, don't take my route. Don't do 15 years to get to where I am when you can do it in 3 or 4. Right. Speak to someone who's done it that way. It would be a much more efficient.
Yeah, but I think different courses for different horses, right? No, I'm comparing you to a horse in any way, but that's not what I was trying to say there at all. So I think there's absolutely valid advice, and I just wonder something as you were speaking about hiding under the pillow and the anxiety you used to go through, and I don't know if you still do. I wonder how much that person saying what they said, that guy that said women don't belong on mountains, is that what he said?
No, so it was a mountaineer that told me when I was still very young. I was like 22 years old, and he was quite a well-known mountaineer, quite a well-known speaker. And he said to me that he had refused to go on stage with a certain female mountaineer because he didn't think that she deserved to be on that stage. And that always stayed with me.
That's what I mean. I wonder if that impacted to get on stage.
Absolutely. Always, that was almost sort of my origin story as a speaker, really, feeling like I didn't deserve to be on stage for whatever reason, from my achievements or being a woman. Like, it was just this seed of doubt that was sown right before I'd ever gone on stage myself, was that, if that guy wasn't willing to go on stage with that incredible female mountaineer because she didn't think that she deserved to be there, then what on earth am I doing up there? So that was definitely where that lack of confidence came from. However, I do think that even when you lack confidence, even if you've got imposter syndrome, if what you're saying is from the heart, hard-learned lessons that you've taken time to craft and tell, it doesn't actually matter if you don't have the confidence. If what you're actually saying and how you connect with people in those moments when you are on stage are good connections and worthy, you will get booked again and again and again and again. So for me, there was a part of me that obviously thought, I never want to do this again. This is the last talk. It was always the next talk was the last talk. Right. But at the same time, when I was up there on stage and the feedback that I would get afterwards, it would always be that kind of sudden rush of relief, of a high of like, I've done it. And, everyone's being really kind. I think the people that love the stage want to be on it, that love the sound of their own voice. Those are the people that I'm more wary of, because I think it's the people that shy away from the stage and that actually sometimes have the most interesting things to say. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing to have. Obviously, it's not ideal for your business and for pushing yourself and reaching your potential as a speaker, but I think we have to, for us, those people that are introverted and do lack confidence of going out there, we have to remind ourselves that does not mean it's because we don't have anything worthwhile saying.
Right.
It's, sometimes the people that are the most confident, it's a lot of hot air sometimes. So I think it's, to all of my introverted speakers out there, like, we're okay, we're doing okay.
Absolutely.
We're there for a reason.
Yeah. And also not to, take what someone said and allow that to become an obstacle, although it's part of your growth story. I think often people say things and we then carry it around with us, and it really wasn't ours to carry, but we can't help sometimes that happening. So that guy saying that had a profound impact on you, whether he meant it or not, had such a profound impact. And sometimes we got to let go of that stuff. And talking about persevering, you won 1 year, and then, you know what? I'm going to come back another year and enter another category, because of course once you win one category, you can't re-enter that category that year. And so you enter another one last year, and behold, what happened?
We won.
You won. So that was best showreel category.
Best showreel, yes.
Right.
And that was. I will admit that I worked with a videographer and editor. We worked very closely together on the showreel, and I wrote him an email in January or whatever it was of last year saying, this is the plan. We're gonna submit this to the Speaker Awards, and we're gonna win an award for this. And when I won the award, I emailed him back that email saying, "Job done. We did it."
Amazing. So
I really went into that. The whole process of even creating the showreel, I had in my head that this was because I was going to submit it, and I was very intentional about that. So it wasn't like the first year when I just thought, I'm just going to throw that in there. But still, my reaction on the night, the thing was, I had seen the other showreels that were nominated, and as soon as I saw those nominated showreels and I watched them all at home, when the shortlist was made, my heart sunk, and I just thought, there's no chance, there's no way. But
you won again. So clearly you've got a taste for it now, for winning. And what's very interesting is the showreel category and Booker's Choice they're all judged by peers, but those are specific bureau agents who have an eye for this, right? So that's what they do. They watch. So to come and win that is a real token to the hard work you put in, and of course with the videographer and the editor and yourself and your vision for it. So you set out to win, right? And you won. Is that the first time you intentionally went after something to win?
No, I'm very intentional. Winning a competition, probably, yes. Yeah, but obviously setting very specific mountain goals and working towards that. It felt very much like climbing a mountain in some ways, and that moment of winning was kind of like reaching the summit. It was great. It was very, very intentional, but I think as well, because I knew that I wanted to submit it to the Speaker Awards, I didn't just send it off to my videographer and let him do what he thought was best. Every single second of that showreel I had basically worked on. There was not a moment of it that I hadn't had input into. And I do think that if you want to win at something, if you want it to be the best, you can't. Obviously, we hire great and talented people to work with us. But if you're going, and this, I guess, this is going to make me sound like such a micromanager, but if you're just going to let them make their decisions about what they think represents you best in a showreel, is it really going to be the best it can be? My showreel was just from start to finish me, what I wanted to say, my messages, my script, every aspect of it was me. And I think that hopefully that came across, and potentially is why I won, because I think it's very easy when you're working with super talented people to just say whatever you think.
Right.
I'm happy with that, and it does, and it's 90% there. But the thing that makes it great is that you've given it that extra 10%. It felt like more than 10%. I felt like I gave everything to it to get my specific stamp on it. And I think that that's maybe what you have to do. Even when you're working with great people, you still have to make sure it's really you that's coming through with something like a showreel. That's what it is, isn't it? It's you.
Yeah. So I guess you got an experience what it's like to be a director, producer. In that moment, like if you zoomed out, and that's what they do in films, right? They sit there and every second they are involved in the editing process. They don't just leave it to people. And you got the results as a result of it. So that's fantastic news. Are you going for a hat trick? Is there going to be a 2026 entry, or you don't want to tell us yet? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would love to apply again. The difference this year is I haven't really got a great amount of footage. And that's what we're all messaging each other saying.
Oh, is that right?
It's like you give the best speech of your life and no one was filming.
Oh no!
And the footage that you do have is like, oh, that was maybe a sort of 6 or a 7 out of 10 speech. So the magic happens when you film the best speech, but that takes a lot of consistently making sure you get that footage. And I'm not quite in a position yet to be bringing someone with me along to my talks and getting them set up to film. And a lot of the kind of speaking I do, the client won't allow filming.
Right.
So yeah, so that's the sort of issue. So I've got to think about how I'm going to do it this year and get the best footage I can, because I think I've exhausted the footage already that I've sent in every best thing I've got now over the last 2 years.
Really?
And I'm going to apply. I need to send some new stuff.
We need to engineer a new talk that's filmed and you get the footage and stuff. Well, it'd be great if you do. If you don't, we understand that people will come and go, right? It's not something that people will be, well, who some might be year on year end, but that's part of it, right? Which is why also there's a 3-year time where you can submit. There's a 3-year backdated footage you can go, so to allow for that, because we were doing 1 year at one point. There's only 12 months, and then we're like, wait a minute, people are running out of footage, so we extended it back, but you can't go back 10 years, right?
Yeah, sure.
So that's really good. Well, hopefully we will see an entry this year. Now let's unpack you a little bit more. Let's get to know you a little bit more. So I feel normally at this point I would ask, what's one thing you wouldn't normally share that you're happy to share? But I wonder if you talking about your pre-talk anxiety would have been that. Am I right by saying that?
I mean, no, I'm very open about that, because I think I really believe that when I am opening up about it, other people then feel comfortable to open up about it. So I speak to really fantastic speakers all the time, and they say, oh my gosh, yes, the anxiety kills me. And I think, you're so successful. How do you still have that? But so it's something that I think is just really common and that many of us have. So I'm really happy to talk about that. One thing people probably don't know about me, I have fainted on stage once.
Really?
That was a hoot.
Oh my gosh! Well, are you happy to tell us what happened?
Yeah, so I was. It was at an award ceremony, a school award ceremony, before I was doing so much corporate work, and I was pregnant with my first child, and I hadn't eaten enough. My blood sugar was low, and I knew I was going to faint because I lost my vision, and I turned to the teacher that was standing next to me, and I just said to her, I'm going to faint. And as I did, I sort of fell into her arms, and they dragged me off stage in front of the whole crowd.
Gosh.
It was properly mortifying. But then the great thing was, it was very metaphorical, because I came back on stage. I had some orange juice and I was right as rain, and it was just low blood sugar. And I came back on stage and finished, did my speech, and basically sort of made a point that, like, you fall down and you get back up again. And I think the parents and the children really appreciated that. So you laugh about it, and I think that's an important thing about being a speaker, is you address the elephant in the room. There was no way I could have gone up on that stage and not mentioned that I'd obviously just fainted in front of them. So to be able to draw that into the story and make a joke and make a point out of it, everyone really loved. And so many people came up to me after and said, "That was just incredible. It's just such a great lesson in life." It's like, yeah. But I mean, for me, there was no way I wasn't going back on that stage to finish my job. But so many people said I would never have gone back up there, and I thought, okay, it must just be us as speakers. Like, it doesn't matter what happens to us, we will get on that stage and we will give that speech.
The show must go on, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you were the youngest female to climb Everest, and
British woman,
youngest
British woman.
And you reached the summit and everything, right? You made it to the top and back down.
Yes, to the top of the world, yeah.
And now you're one of the most, highly booked, and you speak on that topic as well, right? What are some of the other achievements that we don't know about you that you're happy to share? Any books, any films, documentaries? You've been on TV quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, so I presented a TV series for Red Bull for 3 or 4 years. And it was nothing to do with mountaineering. I was a host of a sports show called Red Bull Cliff Diving. Oh. And I basically my job was to interview men in budgie smugglers jumping off cliffs.
Oh, right.
And it was the best job you can imagine.
Is that how you met your husband?
No, but I guess it does take a certain type of man to be like, okay, that's my girlfriend's job, and I'm not intimidated by that, because these divers are obviously incredible bodies, and my job was being flown around the world to Thailand and Mexico and the States to hang out with these people and interview them and create a gripping, Jeopardy-full TV show. So I think I learned from doing that for 4 years, and writing scripts on the hoof that I then turn to the camera and deliver. I got really good at being able to write a story, get to the key point and memorize it, and then deliver it really quickly, which again, didn't realize at the time, but that was a really good skill to have as a speaker, because sometimes, a client will say something to you on the day at the event that they haven't mentioned before, but it's suddenly very important to them, and you've got to go away and you've got to get that into the speech somehow. And so, yeah, that kind of on the hoof, writing scripts, memorizing them as a TV presenter really helped.
Nice. And have you written a book about your experience yet?
Yeah, so my book is called The Girl Who Climbed Everest.
There we go.
And yeah, that you can buy that on Amazon. It's often on discount.
We'll put the links when we share this. We'll put that so people can buy the book. And any plans for any other books? Or we.
Yes, actually, that's what I'm working on as of today is the new book. It's my book I wrote 10 years ago.
Oh wow!
So actually, when I read it back now, it doesn't. You write a book, it's sort of there in stone. Your grandchildren, your great children. I mean, you've written many books, Elliot. I'm sure when you go back to your first book and read it, do you cringe a little bit?
Absolutely, it's so badly written. I'm looking for it because normally it's around here somewhere. It's so bad, Bonita. Honestly, it's awful. Not that my other are any good, but that's the worst.
It's not. That's the thing. It's not bad. It's just that you've moved on. You've developed. But you've actually written more books to sort of replace the first one. I haven't. So the only thing that people have of me at the moment is this 10-year-old book that I wrote in my mid-20s when I'd never written anything before. So I need to update and write something new. So that's my 2026. That's the kind of goal this year.
Love it.
To get that done.
Yeah, I'm writing on my 7th and hopefully final book, which will be available on the 3rd of July at the summit, funnily enough. I'm going to launch it.
Why do you say final?
Because I don't know if I want to write a book after the 7th one. I kind of want, it's not so definitive. I might write it, but I just know in terms of my capacity, my desire, I think I want this book to matter the most. And if I achieve that book that matters, then maybe I won't want to write another book. Lucky number 7 as well. I don't know. It's kind of the way I'm seeing it. I'm putting writing to bed after that. But let's see, who knows, maybe then I'll get commissioned to write another book. Who knows?
I mean, it's amazing that you've gotten only up to number 7 when you really think you're doing the piece of work that you can then say, I'm done.
I think.
That's such a lesson, isn't it? That you think that it's the first book or the early work that's going to be your main work of your life, but you're at number 7 and you're finally feeling like this is the one. That's incredible.
I'm sincerely, yeah, and I'm writing very intentionally like that, because I don't know what it is about this book, but because I had written a book last year, 33,000 words, and I just didn't release it. It was called Leading the Conversation. And I just like, this isn't the book. A bit like, I guess the way I can put it is a bit like an artist that's written an album, but it's not the time for that music to come out yet. That's what I felt about this book. I was like, this isn't the book. It's not the right book. I'm not, my soul wasn't in the book, right? My heart, I wrote it. My heart was half-hearted in the book. And I was like, I'm not releasing this book. But then last year I started to write again, the Watch Me book, which I'm sure you've heard me talk about. And that felt right. Everything felt like, even Maria and people in the industry, like, yes, that's the book. Like everyone's going, that's the book. And so because of that, I'm like inspired. And I just would like to think this is my Start With Why or Unleash the Giant Within. And it's the signature book that's going to leave a mark. Yeah. I could be completely wrong though, right? I don't know. No one knows.
Sometimes that feeling though, that gut feeling, you don't get it very often. And when you do, you've really got to cling on to it.
Exactly.
That's how, yeah.
And also if I think
that's how Everest felt. So
yeah, and if I think of how quickly then since then I've written, so I'm up to 25,000 words now. I've got an idea like how I want to conclude each chapter. I'm going to hit the 30,000 in time and then give it loads of time for people to rip it apart and then rewrite it. It just, the momentum was also, you know, something I've learned, I don't know about you, and I'm interested in your input. I've learned that flow happens when you're in alignment, right? And when I think about the growth of the Speaker Awards and Speaker Summit, it's been hard work, but it hasn't been hard. Some of my other businesses have been hard to grow, hard to sell, right? Speaker Awards, Speaker Summit, it's all happened very naturally, very organically. And while we work hard, it hasn't been hard. And that's blown me away, right? I'm just like, what? People flying in, 200 entries, but it's been, like, I've been in flow. And I think the team have too. Same with this book, right? The moment I landed on Watch Me, it's like pang, 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 it all kind of landed. It all happened. Which is why I think you probably saw our messaging about it, when we think about launching a third service, a membership platform, the moment that was like, guys, this is really hard, we're like, no, stop. We're forcing it. What's your experience with flow from either mountaineering or what you're doing now? I'm interested in your take on that, because everything's felt with this book fairly easy. And I'm dyslexic, so writing's really hard. But the whole it coming out of me has been easy. What's your take on flow and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, I love flow. Flow is so important in climbing. When you just lose track of time, you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time becomes this elastic thing. And, you know, a minute can feel like a second, and, you know, an hour feels like a minute. And that being in that kind of flow state, as we call it in climbing, is just the thing that every climber wants to feel. Do I get it with work so much? I would sometimes I will say, for me, as a mountaineer, somebody whose heart is always in the outdoors, anytime I have to sit at a laptop, it doesn't feel like flow. I also had a really, really difficult time writing my first book, mainly because I don't think I had any idea of how to write a book. And I think one of the things that can help you achieve flow is having systems, having, you know, frameworks, having milestones that you're going to meet along the way, so it kind of breaks this thing down into like these achievable chunks. And when you feel like you're progressing because you're hitting these little milestones, you're more likely to stick with it. But so when if I'm trying to engineer a flow state away from the natural ways that I seem to fall into it, then it's definitely just about, like, with the show reel, for instance, having a really ambitious goal that felt a little bit audacious, you know, like, I'm going to win the show reel award, and then working backwards from there until the minute detail of each second of that thing, that really felt like I had momentum, and momentum to me feels like flow. But I want to sort of throw the question back at you, really, because you've got 2 very young children. Yes. You run multiple businesses. You work from home, correct, where it's quite chaotic.
Yeah.
like any home is with children. I mean, how are you writing a book on top of all of that? Like, how do you achieve that flow state?
It's a very good question. Well, I think, again, back to systems, right? First of all, I'm using a platform which has absolutely blown me away. It's been so good in helping poke me into how to write and what to write. But even previous to that, I developed a system. Being dyslexic, it's not easy for me. So I don't know if you might have heard other people use this, but basically what I would tend to do is I would write the headings of what I want to write in a book. Then I'd write 5 bullet points of what that heading needs to achieve. And then I don't do it as much anymore with a stopwatch, but then I would start stopwatch for 20 minutes and I would write a sentence under each heading for 20 minutes. Without editing, without looking, I'll just write. And then I would stop and reread what I've written, assuming there was always a green and red. Remember those days when there's green and red lines under things? And then I would start to then tweak it slightly. But then I would do that every day. So 20, 30 minutes a day using that system. So by almost a month, I would have the book. Then it's about going in and making sense and then adding the color, the image, the metaphors, the examples. And that's how I do it. That's how I find flow. I play... this might surprise you. I often play really heavy metal when I'm writing. Yeah.
That is a surprise.
For some reason... Say again?
I can't imagine anything worse.
Right.
Like, more distracting.
That's what my wife says. That's what... but I do. I just find it's really weird that within some really heavy, I find peace and focus, right? Everyone's got different things. And that's what I do. So now what I will do with the book that I'm writing now, I will spend 20, 30 minutes doing exactly that. I'll write some key bits. The good thing about the software I'm using now is you can dictate it as well. So once my capacity for writing has emptied, I can then use my speaking to speak to it, and then I'll go through it again. And that's been, again, a game changer. Not that I haven't known about that technology, but to integrate it's made my life so much easier.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you have to trust the process.
Absolutely. As much as that's used a lot, trust the process, trust yourself. And like you said at the beginning, trust you got something to say and it's worth other people reading it. And, I think there's a part of me that's quite defined, being dyslexic, having really struggled through school, being told all that normal stuff. But I'm like, look, I think that's part of my makeup is I'm writing books because I can't really read, right? I was talking to someone before our call and they were like, oh, I read 5 books. What do you read? I'm like, well, I don't really read. I listen because I'm dyslexic. But yet here I am writing another book. And I think that's a part of my defiance. Like, no, I won't be told I can't write. But yeah, so that's a little bit about how I get there. So what you need is heavy metal in your life, Bonita.
Yeah. And I love that you've taken something about yourself which could be seen as holding you back and you've turned it kind of into your fuel to do something. Yeah, it's incredible. Which
is why I'm hoping and putting it out there like you intentionally that this is the book. And then I can just stop for a while, until whenever that might be. So you talked about kids, chaotic and all that stuff. So I don't know about you, but my kitchen table is chaos. No matter how much I try and clear it, there's art on it, there's writing on it, there's homework on it, there's everything. And I've even created an arts corner for my kids and it all ends up on my kitchen table. So it's also the place where my wife and I talk about my vision, her vision, our future. All this stuff happens around the kitchen table. So what's going on your kitchen table? What happens there? Or is it just, what's kind of going on in your vision, in your future that you discuss around the kitchen table?
I love that. That's such a homely vision, isn't it? I can imagine your whole family just around it, that wonderful chaos. We're so lucky to have it.
Absolutely.
So I'm at the kitchen table right now.
Okay.
The dining table. It is a dining table. It's where we eat. It's where I work. It's where the kids do all of their crafts. I mean, I'm sure it's like yours.
Exactly.
It's just, it's treated like terribly. It's got my 2-year-old's biro, scribbles all over it. It's just, it is chaos. The question was
what's going on in your future that you discuss around the table? You're happy to share, obviously.
Yeah, so for me, my heart is very much, I always have more dreams in the mountains. And I'm hoping that I get more chance to go climbing this year into the next year and things like that. So those are the dreams. If you could see behind the screen, actually, there's one wall of the dining room which is covered in post-it notes, and it's my entire keynote, all separated out into little post-it notes. And so if me and my husband are sort of talking about my talk or talking about a piece of marketing or something, we can immediately see every single message in the keynote and draw out, we haven't spoken about this one, maybe this could be a LinkedIn post, or this, whatever. And it's been really a game changer. So not only is the table part of it's also the walls now are also covered in like work and stuff like that. It's a great place, as you say, to sit and talk about dreams. And those dreams are definitely mountain based. Obviously, I want to do more in the speaking world this year. If I can, I'll certainly be applying for the Speaker Awards. And then it's just a place where the work lives, and we just have dinner beneath all of my hundreds of post-it notes about my talk every night.
Your husband isn't in the limelight, is he?
No. He runs his own business, and he also supports me. So I'm very lucky. In some ways, he's my secret weapon. He does all of the things that I would hate to do. Okay. Like all of the tech side of things and the marketing and the business side of things, like accounts and stuff like that. No, I like to focus on speaking, writing content for speeches, practicing my speech, and everything else he does, which again just allows me to be the best speaker possible. So he is my secret weapon. Couldn't do it. He
gives you the freedom to be what you need to be, and he sits in the background, and it sounds like he's quite happy in that role. It's not like he feels intimidated. I mean, you did go chasing budgie smugglers around the world for a while, so he must be very comfortable in who he is and in what you do as well, and it's a token to the strength of your relationship as well.
Yeah, I think he's the best human being that I know. He is honest. He's just the greatest person. He's so supportive. But what in his mind, like, why wouldn't he be?
I agree.
We're in this life together. He wants me to be as successful as possible, and so it's wonderful having someone like that in your corner.
Absolutely,
so I'm very lucky.
I agree. Why wouldn't you be like that with your partner? Like my wife keeps banging on about being an author. I'm like, well, let's make it happen. You've got my backing, right? And something she needs to get over before she goes on this. But I'm like, whenever she comes up with an idea, I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I think absolutely the best thing you can be is be the best support you can possibly for someone else's greatness, and I think that's really important. And I think that's a nice kind of leading from the kitchen table into what are we generally, it doesn't have to be about speaking, what aren't we talking about that we should be talking about? I'm interested to hear from you.
In the speaking world?
No,
or just
generally you could, if you get political, I might not have a lot to say, or I might. Generally, what do you think we're not talking about that needs to be talked about more?
I think probably one of my strongest opinions is, and personal, this is something, I completely respect it and things like that, but the use of AI on LinkedIn and things like that for us as thought leaders. I haven't been on LinkedIn basically for 2 weeks. I've just logged out, and I feel like when I came back to it this morning and I started scrolling through the posts and reading them, and just the obviously written by AI way of structuring sentences, it's not a cat, it's a lifelong commitment.
This is
it's the way it writes things. It's like they're all written in the same way, and I just suddenly feel like this part of my soul die, and I'm like, oh no, another year of LinkedIn and more AI generated content. So I know people use it and I respect that, but if there's one thing that I would say we should be talking more about, it's for me, and this is what I get from the mountains, it's all about real connection. One of the reasons I was drawn to the mountains was, where else are you going to get that experience of living, sleeping, every waking moment, every sleeping moment, you are with a core team that's become your family.
Yeah.
And you can't, if you have an argument, you can't slam the door and walk off because there are no doors. You're sharing a tent together and you're on a mountain. There's nowhere you can go. It really forces you to be a real human being. And that's what I love about the mountains. It brings out your primal instinctive, humanity, really, in so many different ways. So what I'm trying to get at from that is I really just feel like when we are using a lot of AI and we're spending a lot of time in that world, what is it? How are we disconnecting from our own thoughts, from our own opinions? We're taking something that's computer generated. So that would be maybe not something that people aren't talking about, because they are. But I feel like if I was going to make one promise to myself this year, it would be I'm not going to use ChatGPT to write things for me. I'm going to use my brain.
Yes.
Because I already use Google Maps to tell me where to go. I already use all these different things to make my life easier. But the one thing I want to keep for myself is I want to keep thinking about the things that I care about. So, I'm not sure if that answers the question properly, but I would love to have more conversations about people coming back to just the old school analog way of writing. So
is your gripe, because I do use it, but what I do is I will tell it, I will, especially for me being dyslexic, it's like, wow, yes.
Oh yeah.
Right. I don't always use it sometimes, but so is your objection for people that get them to write it for them, or the people that input it? Because someone else I saw, actually one of my clients, he actually flagged it on LinkedIn saying, I'm seeing all their reflection posts and they all sound the same. So it's not the use of AI, it's how we're using AI. So is that where your gripe lies, or the fact that people are just using AI, period?
If I can tell, it's not the fact that people are using AI, because I ask ChatGPT questions all day long. I think it's a really great tool. But if it's coming to putting something out in the world that's supposed to be me, it's coming across as me. Bonita posts on LinkedIn. I feel like it should be, and I'm not saying you can't use ChatGPT to help you craft, work through your ideas and things like that. But what I think we are seeing, if we're really honest, is a lot of people just literally copy and pasting from ChatGPT and then just posting it, and it's so obvious, and it's just incredibly boring. And I feel like part of me sort of dies a little bit when I have to scroll past all this stuff. I think I think we need to just ask ourselves, if I'm just gonna literally sort of say, ChatGPT, come up with a LinkedIn post about X, Y, and Z, and then post it, which I think a lot of people are doing, then should you really be posting at all? Because I don't think that is driving any kind of meaningful engagement or community. I don't think those posts get a huge amount of likes. So it's just all going out there pointlessly. And I might just be such a Luddite for saying that, like such an old school. I
don't think you
are. Of like living under a rock to have that belief. And maybe by the end of the year, I'll look back and watch this from the beginning of the year, and I'll be like, what a fool. Because I realise that the train has left the station with AI. We're all going to use it. We're only going to use it more tomorrow than we are today. But it's just that blatant copy and pasting from ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is.
No, I agree. I think there is something quite soulless about it. And you can I think now, especially, I don't know if everybody, but you can just recognize the type of tone. It's not just a this, it's a this. They're not just a that, it's a that. Double hyphens. And so there's certain things you can now pick out. I agree. I think that AI should enhance, not replace. It should make it better, not talk for you. And I agree on many of the points you're making here, and I do think there is a whole conversation around AI. I've been listening to quite a bit of Direct CEO, and he's really kind of honed in on a lot of the conversations. So if you wanted to get yourself into a bit of he's interviewed some of the pioneers behind AI, some very interesting conversations. And actually one of them was, if you could press the button to stop AI, would you? So I won't tell you what he said, so
Oh no, you can't.
I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to leave. So if anybody wants to, I don't mind. It is a great conversation he had with one of the pioneers of AI, and there is a conversation. I think you're right. I think we need to not lose our authenticity and who we are to AI, and I think that's the danger, that we've become so lazy, especially as the expectation is to churn out content, right? Because as speakers, as leaders, we there's almost like we have this obligation that we need to post because we need to share who we are, and I know they can lead to bookings and things like that. So I completely get the game, but I think it's important not to lose our soul and authenticity within that. So I think absolutely valid, and I think most people will share your input, right? Do you call people out just out of interest when you can blatantly see you don't?
Never, because as you say, you don't know someone's reasons for using it. They might struggle to come up with content themselves, but I never call it out, and I don't make a deal of it on LinkedIn. I've never sort of posted, I hate AI, you're blooming AI posts. No, this is just something that if you ask me, what should we be talking about, I do. I mean, it's not a particularly strong feeling, but if there was one thing, it would be that as speakers, we are supposed to be thought leaders, and thinking takes hard work and it takes time, and a LinkedIn post should take time to craft. We don't have time, that's the problem. So we're given this solution, but what is the solution? Sort of, is it achieving the goal, which is to connect and to think, or is it just sort of this like it's up there and it's done and whatever, it's a tick box, rather than actually, if I posted twice a week, but I really thought about what I was going to say and I crafted it and I spent hours, sometimes LinkedIn posts might take me a few goes and it might take cumulatively like hours to write it.
Yeah.
But those are always the ones that do best, because you've really come at something, with your personal views and you've thought about it. And I just think it comes through. So there are definitely two schools of thought. Some people say you've got to post every day. It doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT. Maybe I just fall into a different camp of, actually, I think post a couple of times a week and think about it. And I'd be interested to see if there's any data to which ones get more engagement. I could be totally wrong, but I'm just going on what I feel like I've seen.
I don't know the data recently, but I do know LinkedIn rewards consistency more than anything. I don't know if that's changed. So whether it's twice a week, as long as it's twice a week regularly, it used to reward you on that. I don't know if that's changed though. I mean, I know I'm a everydayer almost. But that's, I think, because I have a lot going on and a lot to say. It's interesting because actually someone I spoke to before you talked about, is what you're doing achieving your goal? Is it getting you closer to where you need to get to? And I think that's a valid question. Like when you're posting, what is it achieving? There's kind of your ego posting gets lots of likes and comments. Doesn't that feel great? And then there's ones that actually get you business. And I think I'd rather take the latter over the others any day, right? Yeah. So I think that's really interesting, and I think there's it's going to be quite a long conversation, because now AI is going to have to be integrated into governmental policies. There's a lot of stuff that's going to have to happen to get on top of it before it's too late, as you say. So I know I'm taking that a bit further than where you were going with it, but it's going to be a long-standing conversation.
Well, I go to a lot of sorry to interrupt you. I go to a lot of conferences, and the theme of every conference, it seems these days, is AI. And I see a lot of AI speakers as a result. And one thing that I did hear just before Christmas was, in a very short amount of time, maybe even this year, I can't remember the exact date, but most of the content that exists on the internet will be AI generated. So currently still, the majority is human generated. But that tipping point is going to come very soon, where the large majority of content that AI is now going to trawl is actually written by AI. So, that's the work that when it's trawling for content and the content it's looking at is actually written by itself, how does that then change? Where is this going? Where is this developing? So maybe, I don't know, do we fight against the machine, or do we just...
Well, it's quite scary to think that everything on the internet will not be human generated.
Or the majority.
Yeah. I mean, I interviewed Kate, who won Best is she best futurist or best thought leader? She's one of the winners, and she's a futurist, and she talks a lot about AI. And so when I interviewed her, what's the one thing we're talking about that we're not talking about? And she talked about, is it AGI? You know, how soon it's going to be auto-generated intelligence, when it can just take over. And she says that that's something we're not talking about enough, because actually that could lead to human extinction. And right now she says we're sitting on a 25% chance. But it depends who you listen to and at what point. Some are saying it's 3 years away, some it's 20. But you know, if it starts with the whole or most of the internet being trolled and written by them, where does it stop? Right? Yeah. I'm sure we didn't want to get doomy and gloomy. So that's not where we wanted to go. But it is a very interesting, and it is worth staying on top, I think, you know, because our kids are going to grow up in an AI world. So it'd be interesting. And I think you're right. I think it's so true. When you were talking about the mountains and the tents, while I've never experienced it to your extent, there's like some of my non-negotiables is Saturday I'll do a park run, and then I'll go into the sea, right? I'll walk in like this Saturday, -2 degrees, and I don't swim, I just dip, right? I go in, I get wet, I cleanse, and you can't replace that. There's nothing that a screen or something can do for me to get that feeling when I come out. My whole skin's tingling, and yes, I'm freezing, but there's something quite cleansing. And what when you talked about the mountains, as I said, I've never experienced it to your extent because I've never climbed a mountain. There's just some irreplaceables, and I think we should focus a lot on the irreplaceables versus the replaceables. Those key moments, those moments that AI just can't give us. Period. Human connection, human vulnerability, just. It can't do it. I think you're on the money with that, 100%. Yeah. So
you're incredible for doing that.
What's that?
And what did you say? 2 degree water.
It was -2 outside. Yeah. I don't know what the water was. God. It was freezing. It was really cold, but I love it. It's something like there's a meme apparently that goes around. There's no one smug than someone that does cold water swimming, and I don't walk around smug. But I'm like, yeah, I did that. I feel so good. You know, it's just there's something about also for your mental health. And it's freezing. I'm not like, no, it's really warm. It is cold. But there's something about my skin touching water and then coming out again. I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? So I guess you must feel that on the mountains, but you must have over a longer period of time, right?
Absolutely. And I feel like all of these experiences are taking us back to the world that we evolved into, the world that our bodies and our brains evolved into would have been full of really challenging, difficult, sometimes scary experiences from the moment we woke up, all through our lives until we died. And dealing with cold water, dealing with mountains and cold weather, that would have been very much a part of our ancestors' everyday lives. We can choose to remove ourselves from all of that. You've chosen to actually sort of go back to doing something that your ancestors might have had to deal with, and I think that's when you get that feeling of aliveness, it's because you're connecting with something that your body in a very deep way understands. It's like, this is what I was designed to do. I'm designed to cope with freezing cold water. I'm designed to climb mountains, but we've separated ourselves from those things, and so we have this incredible piece of equipment, the human body, which is so adaptable and so strong and so resilient in so many ways. We sit at a laptop and we never actually find out what it's capable of. So as much as, it sounds horrendous what you're doing to yourself, actually I can fully see as a mountaineer, your body comes alive when you make it do stuff like that. And it's because you're sort of reconnecting with the world that it understands. It doesn't really understand that we're in 2026 and we all sit 8 hours a day and drive everywhere and sit at laptops. It does like, what are we going on? We should be out there in the freezing water or climbing the mountain or whatever.
I mean, I also go in when it's warm, by the way. I'm not like, as I say, I don't swim. I go in, I dip my head under, I say a little prayer and I come out. But I just absolutely love it. It just, there's something about it where even on Friday night, I don't know, maybe I'm wired differently. I was just lying there going, I'm really looking forward to going to the sea tomorrow, even though it's freezing cold. I don't know. I'm a bit strange like that.
Wow.
There we are.
Amazing.
And, but equally I look at you, go, wow, climbing. It's like amazing, So I think everyone has their thing. And I think we need more, that's what I'm saying, of those key irreplaceable moments, the things that AI can't give us, we need to have more in our lives and not default back to our phones and to laptops and to where it's convenient. And I think because my commitment was, before we move on, my commitment was to do it for a year. So it was Christmas 2024 to Christmas 2025. Every week I'll go in regardless of weather. That was my commitment. And I achieved that last Christmas. Literally, as in the one just gone. But I'm like, I'm going to carry this on because it's made me a better person. It's made me a better ability to. I remember hearing there's this book called Bulletproof, and she talks about whatever. She survived September 11th, and she's a former, Secret Service. So it's quite interesting. And she said that whatever challenge her the most, she always does. So she talked about one time freezing and literally cutting boots off, and you've probably had that feeling. And she said that was the moment I said cold will never grab hold of me again like that. So she always goes cold water swimming on the coldest day of the year. And when I listened to that, I was like, yeah, I need to carry on with my cold water dipping because it's the one thing that's easy for me to walk away from. Because I've proven something. There we are. I digress. Yeah. What an interesting conversation. I wish we did more talking, you and me. Really fascinating. So there's a new book on the horizon, more climbing, and who knows, maybe a hat trick of awards at the Speaker Awards. Before I ask you to share your favorite story that you wrap your talks up with, what would be your message to people thinking, maybe not as long the line as you on the awards? What would your message to them be about the Speaker Awards?
I've come at the Speaker Awards with two very different goals. The goal last year was I'm going to submit this and I want it to win. That was the showreel one. But the first year that when I went for it and won Best Storyteller, I really just went for it for the process and because I wanted a night out with other speakers. I didn't really know anyone when I walked into that room, and I came out with a whole new group of friends. So you can really take two avenues if you like. You can do it for the pure love of the challenge and the will to win and work really hard at it that way, or you can go at it as whatever happens, I'm going to have a great night, I'm going to meet new people, and I'm going to learn something about myself. I think whichever route, both pieces of advice are totally valid, really. So
absolutely brilliant.
Just sign up. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, back yourself, which is what we always talk about.
Yeah.
And what's your favourite story to end your talk on?
So I don't always get to share it, but the story that I love to share is when I decided I was going to climb Everest, I found out about a woman who was the youngest British woman at the time to have climbed Everest, a woman called Tori James. And she was 25 when she climbed Everest. And so I knew that I could, if I got to the top of Everest before I was 25, I would take Tori James's record. And so what did I do? I went on Facebook and I contacted her on a private message saying to her, I think I'm in love with you. I want to be you and I want to break your record. And goodness knows why, but she actually did respond to that. And she said that she would meet me in person and give me advice on how to essentially take her record from her. And we did meet in person a week later. And from then, she supported me at so many different things. I held a fundraising night for the charity that I was raising money for Everest. And she came along to that and gave a talk. And, she supported me in so many ways and was a real mentor towards me. And I went to Everest in 2010. I took her record. And basically, as soon as I got back from Everest, my Facebook inbox was then full of people saying, I want to climb Everest, how do I do it? But in particular, one message that really stuck out to me was from a young woman who essentially said, I want to take your record. And when I told my friends about her, they were all like, well, don't help her, keep the record for yourself. But I remembered that Tori James had been so generous to me, and I had to now pass on what Tori had done for me to the next generation, really. And so I met this woman and we became friends. I mentored her. She reached the top of Everest herself 2 years later, and I was climbing a mountain near to Everest. So when I got word that she had reached the top, I was at Everest Base Camp, and she, this girl came down the mountain, and I was the first person to give her a hug at Base Camp after she she got to the top of Everest. And even though she'd like taken my record from me, that had been passed on now, I have never been filled with so much pride and joy and emotion. You know, we were both crying. I was saying to her, I'm so proud of you. And it struck me afterwards that moment of losing my record was so much more meaningful than the moment when I got it for myself, when I reached the top of Everest. You know, that 10 minutes on the summit of Everest was nothing in comparison to the 10 minutes that we spent sort of in a big hug and me telling her how proud I was. So that really taught me a very important life lesson, which is you think success is getting the thing, but sometimes success is actually seeing someone else get the thing and knowing that they couldn't have done it without you, and the fact that you really invested in them and supported them to achieve that goal was so much more meaningful to me, because it felt like a legacy rather than, you know, just me taking something for myself. It's easy to do that. It's easy to get success for yourself. What's harder is to support others to achieve something. But when you see that they have achieved something that they didn't think they were capable of, that is one of the most incredible things. And I'm sure, Elliot, that you feel like that at the Speaker Awards, when you have all these speakers that suddenly realise that they can do things they didn't think possible. So yeah, that was a great lesson for me to learn, that giving the record away was better than getting it. And I love telling that story.
That's an amazing story. And I think, you know, you're all part of such an incredible club, right? I think the women, you know, and you were part of a, you know, inspiring women to climb. I mean, I'm sure you inspire men, but, you know, I think women is quite a unique place, isn't it? And I think Tori did that for you, and you did that for this lady, and hopefully she'll do it. And then there's become this club of women that supported each other to do great things. And that's why I said to my daughter, like, I want my daughter to watch you speaking, and if, you know, I want her to watch incredible women as she's growing up, because I think that, you know, there's this amazing movement of female power, I should say. You know, women have won the World Cup in rugby, and they've won the Euros, and I just think there's such great stuff to be seen and shared now. And you were part of that kind of movement. I've worked recently with an Olympic cyclist, and she was one of the first female Tour de France competitors, and she was kind of part of that up. And I just want to keep it. I want to see more and more women doing great stuff. I'm a feminist. I'd gladly completely give up speaking if it meant more women get on stage, and I think more women should be on stage. And it's just really nice to hear, you know, the joy in handing over the baton, so to speak. Like, and records are there to be broken, right? And they should be celebrated when they're broken. I hope you didn't have the whole "I'm going to take you down" messages when you got. You know, there's none of that language going on.
No, it was no, not at all. I mean, as a woman, and a lot of women will know what I'm talking about, we're often pitted against each other. We're often sort of made to feel like we're in competition. And so to actually just put two fingers up to that way of thinking and say, actually, we're stronger together was just, really nice. So, definitely more of that.
Absolutely.
It's only a good thing.
Fantastic. Bonita, thank you so much for giving up your time. And I know you're slightly unwell, so now you can have a good nap. And for sharing your wisdom and being vulnerable with us as well throughout the journey, who you are as a speaker and your journey to winning an award. I don't know if I'll get to see you in the flesh this year. I hope so. If not, at an awards, maybe at an event. But thank you as always. And I look forward to seeing you fly in 2026.
Thank you, Elliot. I hope you do too. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Front Row Podcast. Remember to like, subscribe and comment. It's through your feedback that we grow. We hope you've taken lots of notes, benefited from the wisdom, and are now going to turn everything into action. Remember to keep an eye out for our next episode of the Front Row Podcast. And remember to like, subscribe, and of course leave us a 5-star review. We look forward to connecting with you and hearing the progress of your journey in the professional speaking world. Tune in next time for the Front Row Podcast.